Hey guys, welcome to the debut of Dash and Holmesy Take Your Hearts. I'm one of your hosts, Dash, along with my co-host, making his 8-bit debut. He's known as Holmesy5 to the Twitch world, but to us, he's Holmesy. What's going on, Holmesy?
Hey man, how you doing? This is a little bit nerve-wracking. It's been a long time since I've done I guess any kind of recording a podcast. But thank you for having me here. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you
through the old Discord camera here.
Yeah, that's right. We're obviously conversing over Discord, but you guys are listening to us on podcast today. Guys, Holmesy and I have been mates for... Before I get into what this is, Holmesy and I have been mates for a while.
How many? 8 years now?
8 years, I think.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. Actually, no, it'll be 7 because this is my 8th year on YouTube, and we met shortly after I started. So I think 7 years. Yeah.
The old machinima days.
Let's not get into it's PTSD topics there.
Yeah. So myself and Holmesy have known each other for a while now, close to a decade, and geez, I can't believe I'm actually saying that, but we knew each other through YouTube and everything, so we created video content and all that jazz. And then, Holmesy went off and did Twitch. I kind of went off and did my own thing as well. Now we've come back together to create some awesome content over 8bit.net, some new podcasting content for you guys as well. So this is going to be quite interesting because myself and Holmesy haven't actually done a podcast since the second episode of the Dashcast with Kieran with the chin.
Oh man, yeah, wow, yeah. Memory lane. My gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's been a while. So this is going to be interesting for us to actually get back together and do a podcast. So, guys, what is Dash and Holmesy? Well, it's our tri-weekly book club gaming podcast where Holmesy and I will get together every 3 weeks to look into some of the hottest games out right now. Or some games that we're currently playing and we want to experiment with, like we're doing today. Persona 5 is obviously from the subtitle Take Your Hearts. We'll be diving into the crevices and dissect it to the point where, which we have played to. Don't forget to follow us on soundcloud.com/dashandholmesy and soon on iTunes. But you can also catch us exclusively every 3 weeks at 8bit.net with our hungry family. So we ask also that if we are on iTunes by the time this goes up, that you give us a cheeky 5-star rating and give us a nice review because that does actually help us out. Holmesy.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. So.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? So obviously you're a little bit nervous, aren't you?
Oh yeah, a little bit. I think it's been a long time. Like when I'm sitting at home doing like video stuff, it's if I screw up, I can go back and retake it. But this is all raw and unedited. It's just it's good. I'm excited.
It's
though.
good.
It's a good. It's a good nervous, not a not a bad nervous. We're good. We're good. We're doing. It's exciting.
So this is a little bit different because what I've done is basically I gave you Persona 5 to play, and yes. This is a game that essentially you kind of don't have any experience in playing any of the other Personas at all.
None. I've not actually. I've seen stuff online, like a couple of little posts from other people playing the game, but it's never caught my attention before.
Mm. And would you consider ever picking up something like this at all?
Not until you put it in my hands. No. No. This is although you've got a bit of a reputation for giving me games that are usually pretty good. So I've got what was it? What were the last 2? You gave me 2 before, but this.
I gave you Life is Strange, the last one.
Life is Strange, the last one. That was really good. Yeah. So far you've just given me bangers, but
yeah,
we've got a new game in front of us today.
That's right. I can't remember what the first game was, but I do know that you kind of teared up with Life is Strange, which was quite good to actually watch you play that. It was actually quite entertaining. Now, with Persona 5, first tell us what you know about the story so far.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So it's I've played this over quite a long time as well. So you gave this to me was it 2 months ago now? I think.
Yeah. Right.
Just about. Yeah. So I've had it for a while. From what I recall, from what I remember, my so my character's name, because I know that you get to name your own character, is Senpai Weeaboo. And so Senpai Weeaboo. Essentially, the game kind of starts out and you're sort of relapsing through this whole, or you're having it's like a flashback you start out with, and you're kind of infiltrating what I guess I now know is like a palace. But you get caught in the whole thing. You're getting interrogated about what you're doing, but you essentially get kicked out of the town you live in because you've been, I guess, sued or accused of assault. You have to start a new life in a new town in Japan or Tokyo, and Yeah, you're living with gosh, I think his name's Sujiro.
Yes.
The cool, like the dad of the game essentially.
Yeah.
And you're starting out a new life in a new place, making new friends and trying to stay out of trouble. But that's the
Yeah.
last part doesn't go so well, staying out of trouble. Ha.
Yeah, you're not my real dad,
You're
Dad.
not my real dad, Sujiro.
So, what date are you up to on the game?
25th of the 4th. So I don't know. I
Okay.
won't say what I've just done just yet because I might
Yeah.
bring up that later. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty close to some bigger events in the game.
Yeah. So, from what you have played so far, though, what are you thinking of the story development within the main character to the characters that he's met so far? Like, obviously Ryuji is the first character you actually meet. Well, technically that you befriend, I guess,
Yeah.
in the game. So, what do you think of the character development thus far to where you're up to right now?
I mean, I'm 11 hours in, and
Yeah.
I got to say, like, I mean, character development I think is pretty good. I think I like the fact that you get to develop relationships with other characters too. It's not just like a case of the story kind of progresses and dictates what your relationships are and gives you like a pretty guided sort of experience. You get to choose whether you can go and like train with characters or interact with characters and talk to them, and like you can develop specific relationships or choose to ignore them or put them off to the side for the time being. So I think like the fact you get to pace your own character development and choose who you want to befriend closer is a really cool aspect.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, 11 hours in, it's taken a long time to get to something that I've considered exciting.
Yeah.
And it's a very slow
Yeah,
grind.
it's a slow burn. It's a very slow
Yeah.
burn. So this is something that I was quite when I actually handed the game over to you. I remember actually telling you it's a sinkhole. It's a time sink, I should say. Sorry, not sinkhole. It's a time sink. You will have to put some hours into this game to actually get to a certain point to like jump that hurdle is what I always say because I feel like a lot of games they end at like what you're up to right now. So like in story development and everything else, a game these days only lasts like up to 8 to 13 to 15 hours on a main
Yeah.
story. So you're 11 hours in and you haven't even ended the first mission yet, to be honest.
From what I kind of gather, I've only kind of scraped the surface. It's like a drop
Pretty
in
much.
the water.
Yeah.
I mean, you've told me before that it's like as an estimate, maybe like an 80-hour game, and so maybe as a speculation, like an eighth of the way through the game, and I think the best analogy I can think of so far to describe my experience is like pedaling up a hill in fifth gear. It's just been slow and hard, and I feel like I've just gotten to the top of the hill, and we're going to start cruising down and going through.
Yeah.
Good,
So
exciting stuff.
So tell me, what kind of games do you usually play though? Like, what's your type of game that you usually like to play? Like, what kind of genre is your genre?
Single player, role player adventure games. Usually with like I don't know, like I've not got a short attention span. I'd like to think, but something
you
that's
definitely do.
I say I know 8 to 10 hours sort of fits the bill. So like I mean the first 3 games I could tell you off the top of my head, or like series that are like my favorites, are Far Cry 3 and 4, the Dead Space trilogy, and now just recently God of War. Like God of War is probably the best game I feel like I've played ever. But games like that, or like those 3, all have very similar themes and layouts. So like that kind of style.
So how long is God of War? Because I can't really remember. How many hours is God of War the main mission?
Well, I haven't finished it yet, and I feel like I've sunk at least like 16 or 17 hours into the game because I've streamed it like a number of different times, and people are telling me I'm just over halfway. So for a story that this game is, I feel like it might be the same as Persona though, in the sense that it's a big game that's not designed to have much or any DLC.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of style, which is good.
Okay, that's good. How you find? I don't want to jump across too much to God of War, but how much you find? Like, how are you finding your attention span to something like that so far? Like you said, you're about 17 hours into that one. How are you finding that? And you're saying you're about halfway. How are you finding that at the moment?
It's I guess comparable to like Persona 5. I guess like the pacing is incredibly different because this game is overall much shorter. I think like because of I think they've ticked a lot of boxes in pacing and duration and story and interaction and events. Like it's not, I don't think I've found a point in the game where I've been bored or like, I guess like I'm kind of like, when are we moving to the next spot? There's always something new, and the pacing has just been set out really, really well.
Yeah. How are you finding that with Persona though?
hard
Okay.
in a word.
Yeah.
Up until now, up until literally, I've only just beaten. Can I?
Yeah,
Should
you
I
can
say what
mention
I've
it. Yeah,
just
yeah,
done?
of course
Yeah.
you can, because you've
Yeah.
already mentioned the date, so yeah.
Yeah, of course. I've just defeated one of the palaces, so I think up until like this bit,
Yeah.
I found it a bit of a struggle until I started fighting more interesting enemies and having more
Yeah.
dialogue come up and more big events kind of happen.
Yeah.
But I also feel like this is the I guess like the downward in a positive way, the downward cruise
Yeah.
where everything's just going to kind of pull me into the game and I'll roll through it all.
Yeah, it definitely is, because I think from here, so you've actually just defeated Kamoshida and his palace. What you just basically explained was a great analogy, because essentially what you've done now is you've kind of opened up a lot more now, because Kamoshida's palace is essentially what begins as a tutorial kind of thing, just to kind of ease you into the game and make you understand what's going on. A lot of people were questioning it and saying, is this the game? Is this it? Is this all it's going to be? And essentially, once you pass that hurdle, it just opens up a whole lot more. And when I say that, you can basically, when I say to you, it's 80 hours, it's 80 hours because you can just basically go forward from here and just go straight through the story. But you can also look around, upgrade your personas and everything else. And
Yeah.
that can extend the story. That can extend the gameplay time a little bit more. However, your experience will be a lot better by doing so, because you open up new story avenues, new paths, and everything else. And it essentially creates a new path for the story as well. So it will affect your story essentially in a way, kind of like what you just said before we started the podcast, when you said, Beyond. I really like playing Beyond Two Souls because of the story attributes and how you can choose your path and everything. Persona has that in it as well. So if it depends on how you play the game and how you want it to play for you, which is cool. And from a personal experience, from when I played it as well, from when I played the first Palace, I was exactly like you, and I kept playing and playing. And when I passed the first Palace, I thought that was the game and that was it. And I thought, okay, well. I can't remember, I said paid like $70 for it. I'm like, I paid $70. It wasn't a bad experience, but and then they said, oh, it's not over. I'm like, what? And then I kept going and going. But the thing is after I got past that first Palace and got into, what was next, I thought that it was an incredible game. So I'm glad that you've actually passed that tutorial hurdle. But from everything else, from what you've played so far, it's just gonna get even better from here. Now, from what you have played, what have you, in terms of trying to gain traction in the story and everything else, have you really understood what is going on so far, though?
Not entirely. I do understand that there's obviously two kind of realms or two sort of spaces. Like there's the real world, and then I guess the best way to describe it, from what I at least recall, is the shadow realm kind of space. Not to reference Yu-Gi-Oh directly or anything, but send your ass to the shadow realm. But the whole mirror kind of image of the entire place, on the opposite side, the different visual analogies of what Kamoshida interprets in the real world as his slaves and his prizes or his champions, all that kind of stuff, I think is really, really cool. But it's I feel like there's the amount of stuff that they've introduced in the start of the first 10 hours that I played. I feel like the amount of different ways they introduced to play the game, there's a lot to remember and a lot to do that I feel like they could have maybe spaced out throughout the game more. I feel like they've just dumped everything, the entire how to play the game, into 10 hours, when I think they could have just let you use that 10 hours to learn and refine different strategies and then add more onto it later, so that you kind of become better and better with each different layer of the game. But that's my opinion. Obviously, it's subjective. I know everyone's
no. Of course it is. But the thing is that now it's funny that you bring that up, because there are new things that you will learn as you go forward as well. But it's not going to be completely tutorial like how it was in the first Palace. Basically, there will be points that will be brought to you, and it will kind of come to you, and they'll say, okay, now you can do this, and you've unlocked this ability and all this other stuff. This is how you use it. But it's not going to be always here it is. And in every single Palace, it's going to be basically one here, one here, one here. So it is something that will happen, but it'll gradually happen over time. It's just the first Palace is basically just as you said, you felt that it was kind of constricted, and I can understand that it was kind of put into one confined Palace to basically give you the basics of everything. It would have been good, as you said, for them to do that as well. Now, did you find anything at all so far confronting?
I feel like there's definitely a topic there that you're looking to reach out on. I
Yeah.
obviously, like, I know that there's a pretty, I wouldn't say strong thing, but there's definitely they're addressing the themes of suicide in the game, which is it was very unexpected considering that. I think that was probably the biggest shock that kind of came within like the first 10 hours of the game, is somebody trying to take their own life. And obviously it's I know that I guess the game in the start kind of seems like a bit lighthearted, nothing too serious kind of going on. It's sort of like fictional, but to address real world topics in the way that it has, I think is I think it's really well done, and not it's not. It's done in a serious manner, and I know that like for a game to kind of bring something in like that can be a risky move if it's made out to seem like lighthearted or humorous or anything like that. Obviously, like I know Persona doesn't do that, but it's definitely taking a risk, and I think they did it really well. And it's obviously I know not to divert too much from the topic, but I know Life is Strange does the same thing as well, and they both kind of like speak to like, you know, your own resources to like look to if anybody is going through the same thing that, you know. It's that was a shock to kind of sum it all up. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest.
Yeah, because essentially, like you said, it parallels with Life is Strange in a way that Life is Strange kind of brought up, you know, all the everything that like a student goes through in their school days and everything, and you don't know what they're going through and who's doing it to them and what's happening at all. And for the fact that they actually brought that up in this game as well, it is kind of confronting for sometimes when you actually sit there and play it. And some of the topics that you know, just the first kind of section of the game, I remember playing it, and some of the stuff that they actually brought up, and like you said, suicide. There was also sexual misconduct and all this other stuff that happened in just that first 11 hours of the game that was brought up. You know, all that kind of stuff, and you got to think to yourself as well that this kind of stuff actually does happen in real life as well, and how much of it will affect a person playing, you know, a game like this. You know, sometimes people play game to escape these kind of things, and sometimes whether it can be a little bit confronting for somebody to actually play it on a game as well. It can be a bit of, as you said, a risky move, but I think the story's handled it really well so far, and you know, there's going to definitely be some stuff I think that you're going to be in shock for, but I won't go into that yet because you still haven't finished the expulsion, have you?
No, so I am just shy of that. I was hoping to have that done before today, but it's I think I'm about 6 days away now
From expulsion.
Yeah, the only thing I found that I struggled to do, and this is although it's going to be a change of topic as well when I say this, but we can probably talk about it more later.
No,
but,
we can talk about anything. Just go for it.
I mean, the one thing that I found difficult after finishing the palace, although I might have rushed. I don't know whether it's that I've rushed through getting through the palace in general, or whether it's obviously you could pace yourself because you get given a deadline for the actual expulsion in itself. But I completed Kamoshida's palace on the 23rd, and then I have to now. I basically in the game have to kill time for 7 or 8 days.
Yeah.
And I have struggled to find what to do. Like I've done that, and now I've got 7 days to get through and do stuff, but I don't know what to do in the next 7 or 6 days. Like I've managed to train with Ryuji. I haven't bumped into Lady Ann or Morgana at all. I've done like a couple of classroom things, like increase like my different traits, but I don't know what else to do now. It's just kind of like, do I just basically go to school, walk around, go home 6 times over to get there? It's I know some parts of the game I found a bit unclear as to what the next steps are and what I guess what I should do.
Yeah, so I agree with this. So for the first portion, so like as I said, for the first part, this is basically what you'll be doing for the first palace. Essentially, it's like the first mission. Essentially, you will be doing that for that expulsion rate. So the reason that they do this, I found out later on through my second playthrough, is because if you play a harder difficulty and all that, obviously your health and everything will kind of diminish a lot easier while you're in a palace. So what they want you to do is use the safe room to travel back to the first part, like the front of the castle, then boot, and then come back on a different day so that your health is regenerated, and then you can keep going. So essentially, that's why they give you that space of from there to the expulsion, or from So
it's a buffer for all difficulties. Essentially, it's like they're accommodating for it, and I I haven't finished it too quickly per se, but because it's on an
Yeah.
easy difficulty, I have that spare time now.
Correct, yeah. But you also have that spare time to upgrade your personas, find new confidants as well. So new confidants around the city. If you want to walk around and have a look, like the train station, all that, you can have speak to some people and all that, and make new confidants. They'll help you. They'll actually help you upgrade your personas. So that's actually something that you might want to look into if you've got like those spare 7 days left, I guess. It's also a way for you to unlock. So go shopping, unlock some stuff and all this other stuff. So that like when you do head into the metaverse, you'll have gear on you, so that your health doesn't diminish as easy. Because I remember when you were fighting the oh god, what was it? It was the first time you died. Oh, sorry, no, wasn't it? Was it the first time you died the other night on stream?
No, I think I've died once before, but it was what did I fight? It wasn't the
No, it wasn't the big penis.
It wasn't the penis guy. No, that was it was before that. I got caught. Oh, it was one of the big like the knights. Oh, it was obviously
the first night that you
into other enemies, but it was one of the
so
red
when you
knights.
when you made it into the top tower, it was the first night up there, wasn't it?
Oh, here's a topic. Here's a vent. Oh my god. Yeah, see, you're right. The first time I died, was I infiltrated like the main tower to get towards the top and get the treasure and all that. And I lost to one of the knights, and I had to respawn all the way back at my last safe house or safe room.
Yeah.
And I lost like half an hour of gameplay and like leveling up and grinding. And so like I skipped a bunch of enemies. I'm just like, I'm done with this. I'm done. I'm just going up. I'm just running past everyone. And I'm getting to the same fight and find another safe room. Why are the safe rooms not screaming at you like, come here. Come and save here. Why don't they do that?
They do that. They do that. Well, you got to get close to them. And they can't make
too close.
Too close, yeah. Now, you do mention that. That is a little bit of a flaw it's got. That essentially, like, see, I don't know. I can't confirm yet whether that if you do die, you lose everything. Do you know if you lost everything?
I did, yeah, because I had to go back and collect the treasure again. So there was treasure chests that were still, I unlocked a treasure chest on the way up, and then I died, came back, I had to get that loot again. So I lost everything that I had in like the half hour. Which was pretty frustrating. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that. I know you can you can press start and like save the file and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Here you go. Two things. I think the save system's stupid, but on the flip side, I like that you can save online. I really like that. So for anybody who's listening, Mr. Dash Gamer, long story short, I locked myself out of my house once, but Dash let me Dash let me crash at his house once. And so he set up the PS4 in the lounge room. We mucked around and played Burnout Paradise or the remake. And then we're like, you know what? Let's play Persona. And because my save file was online, I was able to log into my PSN, download the save file, and continue my progress at his house without my PS4. So I think that's fantastic. I think the cloud storage built into the game is top tier. But I think maybe the option to save physically wherever you are in the game would be much more appreciated instead of just in a safe room. Yeah.
Okay, so I agree with you, but in sense of saying that too, it wouldn't necessarily be great tactical RPG if that happened, because then afterwards you basically can save to the point where you almost lost and then start again, or like from there. It does kind of have that feature that you're talking about. You can save in like while you're walking around, but when you reload, you come back to your last safe room, don't you? Yes, but from what you're saying, right? You know, so like, for example, you got frustrated that you died and you have to end up in the last safe room, right? Mm-hmm. So if you liked, would you rather have the choice of dying and then restarting the battle that you're in?
So immediately as you asked that question, my first thought has gone to Kingdom Hearts, which I like the live save file on that. You have a world. You have a set save point that you have to run back and forth to. If you lose a fight, you either choose load screen or retry, and you load back to just before the fight you encountered. Okay. And you don't lose anything.
Yeah, so, it has that. So, essentially, remember when you started on Twitch, you said, okay, so which difficulty should I choose? And Mog was there with us. She was watching. He said, he should pick easy. I said, he should pick story, because story is essentially that, right? So, if you pick story... It's essentially the same game. So exactly what you're playing, right? So
you don't lose anything if you change it, right? Yeah, it's still the same experience.
That's right. So I don't know if you can change it now that you're in it.
I
But
can, yeah. I looked
you
at
can?
I was going
Yeah.
through options as well because I also want to. We'll talk about this later, but I also wanted
Yeah.
to dabble in the game with Japanese
Yeah.
voiceover and
Yeah, you
English
can do
subs
that.
because I just want to see what the experience is like that way
Yeah.
as well. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah,
Completely
if you
weird.
can senpai
Yeah,
weeaboo.
boo. Yeah, look, no,
Yeah,
you
if
can
you,
do, you
if you
can
can
do
do
that.
that, that's really cool. If that's the
Yeah.
case, then for the sake of streaming it too, I think I might
Yeah.
change it over to
Story.
story mode because if that's the case, then I lose on story mode and come back to where I was just fighting and have
Yeah.
the choice to restart again. I
Yeah.
think that should be the experience until you play hard.
Yep. So that's
Personally.
exactly, yeah. So I found that out playing it personally because I was playing on an easy, and I did the same thing. So I actually lost against the penis monster, and yeah, and I ended up back in the last safe room, and so you can, yeah, that's right. I did change it myself. So I ended up changing it to story, and playing it again. I lost against the penis monster again, and fortunately, it said, "Would you like to restart this battle?" At the bottom, I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" So basically, just
Cool.
clicking yes, and it just restarts the whole battle for you. So you don't have to end up back in the safe room. You're not ending up like an hour or 30 minutes behind. You're there. Because I tell you now,
Right.
you're probably gonna need this in the future. I tell you right now, because even on easy, some of the battles that are in the future, sorry, even on story, some of the battles that you go through are hard. They are very hard, and I found that to be like almost confusing to a point because I said to myself, "Fuck, I'm playing in story difficulty right now, and I'm finding it extremely hard to beat some of these enemies as well." You're doing the smart thing though. I've noticed is that you're looking at like all their weaknesses and everything else. My first playthrough, I didn't know about that until my second playthrough.
Ah, okay.
So you're
See,
playing
like,
smart.
yeah, when that comes up, like, I'll look at an enemy and I'll see like what's still a question mark, and because I know like Arn, Morgana, and Ryuji at the moment just have their fixed personas, but I remember like Morgana's got wind, Arn has fire, Ryuji has lightning, and it's just like, okay, well, let's pick. Like, I'll use like a different type of attack for every character and try and expose those weaknesses turn by turn until I get one. And then as soon as I get that, like for guns, you can shoot every character like bang, 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 and then you can immediately do like takedown or like all out attack. Like it's I've been trying to do the whole strategy thing with that. I gotta say, like when it came to the fight against I guess Kamoshida, like the big fight, like big tongue monster man. That fight was incredibly misleading when you start kicking his ass and you're grinding away at him, and then he just like heals. And as soon as he healed, just the Salt Lord in me took over. I'm just like, are you serious? What is this? And then you got to beat the cup, and I'm like, surely they're not going to make me beat the cup and then beat him all over again. And then to see like that he gets demoralized and you do more damage to him, like it. When I got about a third of the way through that fight, I'm like, this is going to take. Are we allowed to swear in this?
Yes, we are.
As soon as he healed, I'm like, this is gonna take fucking forever. I was the one that was demotivated until like you steal his crown. I'm just like, oh, thank God, he takes like 200 damage a hit. Oh man, it was just an emotional journey with that fight. Seriously, like I didn't know what was happening. It was like it was. Yeah.
This is only like an hour ago. This happened. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's like honestly like an hour and a half before we've done this, yeah.
So you're fresh off the fight, aren't you?
Yeah, so I've done that. I've spent 2 days after kind of killing time because I've got heaps of time left. So I might do that when I got some spare time. I might just kind of go around and see what I can, I guess like any confidence I can find or like level up. And I learned how to make coffee with Sojiro, so that's pretty good. Been eating some of his curry.
Yeah, so that's funny that you mentioned that because even stuff like that, even the small stuff like that, is actually important to what you're doing in the game. So, like, even making coffee with Sojiro, it actually gives you... You know, what's the funny thing is that... Oh, God. You'll find out when you play it, but it is important things that happen. I can't talk about it too much because you're only still at the first part of the game. But as I said, once you cross that hurdle, man, there's so much stuff that we can talk about. But... how are you finding some of the characters themselves so far? Like, so how, are you finding them like funny, confronting? How are you finding them so far towards Senpai Weeaboo?
I mean, I like that you get to dictate the personality of your character itself. Like, you get to pick the responses and all that. But like Ryuji, I think it's really cool. Like I've had a great experience like talking to his character, and like you get to like his old track team comes up and like tries to confront him, and you can turn around and like either encourage him to beat up the team that's like having a go at him, or you can like, you know, to help him. Like when I did it, I said like, you know, calm down, man, it's cool. Like I said, calm down to Ryuji, and he responds positively, and now my relationship with him has grown. Like that's really, really cool. Like I feel like it's such a small piece of dialogue, but it's got a reward to it, and I feel like being able to do those things and get something back for it, it's cool for story progression, but also for character progression. With Ann, I haven't really had too much of an interaction aside from like she's got a pretty strong sort of connection to the whole. I can't remember the name of the character right now. There's been quite a few, but the girl that commits or tries to commit suicide, she's got a very strong. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. She has a very strong connection to her, so she sort of takes care of that and talks about it a lot through texts and such. So her character development. That's it. Yeah. So she kind of addresses a lot of that throughout the game, but I feel like I haven't seen too much of what she's got going on aside from the fact that Kamoshida like over sexualizes her in his mind, and you see that in his palace. Yeah. So Jiro's just cool. He's just a really cool chill dad dude, and like I like that he's kind of like he's a real big hard ass when it comes to like, you know, don't make a bad coffee or I'll kick you out. But like deep down, he's like, he kind of got like the whole like, yeah, you know, you're staying here, you're doing a good job, you're cool. Yeah. But Morgana, I don't like Morgana's character.
You don't like Morgana? How come?
Hey, it's fucking weird. I don't. Like, I mean, first of all, I thought it was a girl, but it's a boy with a girl voice actor.
Yeah. A lot of people
thought that completely messed me up. Yeah. But I don't know, like maybe it's the English version too. Like whenever there's something that the character gets excited about, it makes like these meow noises, which make me really uncomfortable. I hate that sound effect. I don't know why, but like I don't know, her character's it's just weird. Like Morgana's character's like when like some of the dialogue that comes out, like when Lady Ann does something, like you get a critical hit or like a weak attack with Lady Ann, and he says like, "You're so gorgeous, Ann." It's just like, that's not something you say in the heat of battle, man. You don't do that. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Morgana's character personally, but everyone else I like.
Everybody else you like but Morgana?
Yeah, Morgana I got weird vibes about.
Okay. What do you think of the strengths of their characters in terms of their personas and stuff? Like using it, who have you been favoring the most in battle so far?
Weeaboo.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
I really like... is it Arcana?
Yes.
Is that... Arcana, that...
Oh wait, man, no, their Arcana is something else. Is it Arsene?
Arsene, that's it. Yeah, sorry, Arsene. Yeah, the originals. I know you can get him back, or like I've heard that you can get him back, but like that persona looks so damn sick. And when I had to forge or like not forge, is it weld or merge personas?
Yeah, merge and personas.
Merge personas. When I had to merge them and it turns into like this little floating pot, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I know. I thought the same thing.
Why have you turned my badass demon like angel guy into a little pot plant? Like, what is this? I want him back because his character was sick, and like, oh god, my computer's just gone to sleep. Come back.
That's alright. I'm still here.
Sorry, my screen's just blanked out. Ryuji's one. The pirate guy looks really cool. Lady Ann's kind of like harpy looking thing. I think it's a harpy looking one with like the fireballs and stuff. Sorta.
Yep.
Yeah. Morgana's dude with like the wind, kind of like the sword thing's cool. But like, yeah, I really like my the main characters.
The main character's persona, yeah. In terms of its character, though, like, what do you find? Who do you find the best to use so far on these characters, though? Because obviously there are the strengths and weaknesses, but there's always one character that has that one move that essentially eliminates it and just smashes it. So, like personally, I found it that there were two moves from Ryuji that kind of helped me a lot, which was the Zeo move and the Carnage move, where basically he uses his persona, which is the pirate ship, and just it kind of blasts him and hits him multiple times, kind of like punches. I found those two moves to be quite strong. I don't know why, but like in the heat of it, those two moves really helped a lot in terms of other personas at the start of like the first mission. Is that happening with you? Are you finding anything different?
I've kind of found like, I mean, because I know you said that I've been using like the weaknesses stuff pretty early on. I found that like most of the time now, at least, I can kind of get the weaknesses set up for an all-out attack within the first two moves if it's like character I know the weaknesses for. But depending on who I'm fighting, I've noticed Ryuji has like the best physical attack. Morgana has great a great variety of like elemental or like healing and support abilities, and then Ahn has got really good like persona attacks. So like her fire attacks are really strong, and like Ryuji's got good physical. And like Weeaboo is just a good balance of all of them because you can pick different personas anyway. But with all that being said, I find Ryuji to be the most useful because most of his attacks hit pretty hard, and he has an attack buff too. So you can either buff him, or I just use his own buff ability to buff himself, and then just like send out some haymakers.
Yeah, it's pretty. He's got pretty sweet moves. So yeah, I completely agree. How are you following the story pretty intensely, or are you kind of like brushing over it so far? Are you like really focused on it and trying to really follow? Are you finding it hard at all?
I haven't found the game difficult aside from having to go back like that one loss. And to be honest,
I mean the story based. Like, are you finding it hard to kind of connect with these characters?
Oh, the story. I mean, finding like connecting with the characters, I don't think's been hard. I think like seeing the relationships build is pretty good. Like the close characters, like your four, like your group that you've got, and then Sujiro, like that's been pretty cool. And obviously like Kamoshida, we don't have a connection with him, but I think the themes around like either killing him or not killing him at the end, like killing his, I guess like his shadow version, or sparing him to confess, like that was like a cool choice. But to be honest, like apart from up until this point, like most of it I've just been like, I was invested in the start, and about the middle I was like, man, when is something exciting going to happen? And I sort of zoned out to the point where it's just like something exciting needs to happen. And I remember like points of the game where something exciting would happen, but I feel like there's a lot that was in that whole first part of the game that I feel like could have been skipped, like traversing through the whole palace. There were points in there that were just like, maybe this didn't need to be here. I feel like they could have cut this down and just made it a bit more engaging instead of just being like fights and puzzles for super long. I felt like that lasted quite a long time.
Do you feel like it could have been shorter?
I feel like the start could have been shorter for a tutorial. I think 10 hours for essentially a tutorial palace is pretty long. And I feel like I would have retained more of what they were trying to teach me if I had the opportunity to reuse those things more often. Like I'm sure there's some things I don't remember right now that I haven't used that they've taught me. And because so many of the fights in the middle were just filler fights where it's just like, weakness, all out attack, done, or weakness, get a new persona or item or money. I haven't had the chance to use a lot of different strategy kind of based things apart from like big boss characters, and there hasn't been very many of them. So I think if there were more opportunities to rinse and repeat different strategies and kind of learn things, that would have been more effective than running around a lot like a massive palace and trying to make your way through the whole place. I feel like that kind of got a bit it wore thin pretty quickly for me.
I understand. In saying that, actually, so at the start of the podcast we mentioned that you're more of a first-person shooter, third-person shooter, because you like playing Fortnite. You also like playing the arena shooters a lot these days. So in playing those kind of games normally, and even adventure games like God of War and Horizon like that, normally that's your go-to usually. Because we're both like that essentially. Even I was like that too. Jumping to something like Persona from that, like it's almost a harsh U-turn in a way, kind of in an analogy to explain it in a way. Did you find it kind of hard to kind of do that because you're mainly more, like you said, your attention span's kind of shorter in like trying to play like a game, kind of like a first-person shooter. Kind of your attention span's a little bit more into it, rather than something that you got to sit there and understand the tutorials and play it and like learn a whole new way of playing a genre. Was it really hard to jump from something that's a lot more fast-paced into something that's a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, but slower is probably the way I could explain it right now.
Yeah, I mean, to compare this to like the games I played before, like you're right, it is very, very different. With that being said, I have like I think my favorite, because this is obviously a turn-based game in terms of combat. I reckon it would have been cool to see it in like kind of set up in a similar style to Final Fantasy 13. That's probably like I feel like that for me would have been a more engaging way to play like the fighting. To answer your question though, like to talk about like whether it was hard to come from like fast-paced games to this. in a story aspect, yes. With that being said, like I still don't mind like a turn-based game. Like, I mean, I love Pokemon. Like Pokemon's turn-based games and fighting like that. So like that's a great series. I know this isn't Pokemon, but like the fighting style is similar. But I think in with regards to the story and all that kind of stuff, like having it, I feel like there was a lot of best way I could describe it is kind of like white noise. I feel like there's a lot in there
Just
a lot of
doesn't
fat
need to be
that
there.
could have been trimmed that kind of like shouldn't have been there, but couldn't have been there. I feel like there's a lot that I could have let somebody else play or just skipped over entirely to get the story and still learn what I'm supposed to do.
Have you skipped? Like in terms of the story though? Have you like skipped a lot of it, or have you read? Like, have you gone from the start to finish reading everything and like knowing everything that's there?
As best as I can, yeah. So I've seen, I right now off the top of my head, I couldn't quote exactly what's gone through, but if I played through the game right now and like say in the next 2-3 hours time, something comes up referring to a past event, I'd be like, yes, I do remember that. So like I have paid attention, but there have been a few times where I'm just,
it's hard.
It's tricky to pay attention. Yeah, I find myself getting a bit bored, but
No, I don't blame you. I did I did the same thing. I remember, all the text messages. Like seriously, when you get those text messages from the people, like I'm more invested. I'll be honest. The the dialogue that's not read, like as in like the characters aren't actually talking. So I kind of get bored reading it. I really enjoy the voiceover dialogue in the game. The dialogue that comes up just as a speech bubble, and then like, you got to read it and read it and read it. Sometimes for me, it kind of got a little bit too much, so sometimes I did skip a little bit. I felt though that the times I did skip were buffer, like you said, like a lot of white noise that just simply didn't need to be there. Sometimes I did skip important conversation, which was my bad because I shouldn't have done that, because it also didn't help me through trying to find stuff, because it's for such an RPG that looks it's a corridor RPG, but it's big, and sometimes you can get stuck if you don't follow everything. And sometimes it does hold your hand a little bit, because it'll say, no, remember I said this, don't do this, and then it's like, oh well, I just skipped that, so thank God it had something there to tell me. But sometimes it doesn't hold your hand, and that's where you pay for it too. So and then afterwards you got to traverse all the way back for about like half an hour, because the one thing that I did mention to you when you were streaming the other night was when you went into that safe room and you said, are there going to be enemies when I come out? And to my surprise, there wasn't the enemy there. But usually when you do leave a room, go through a door and then come back through that door again, the enemies respawn. So I found it surprising that I found it surprising that the enemy wasn't actually there that night. But usually what happens is you go into a room. Maybe it's just because it was a safe room. I'm not sure. But usually when you go through a door and then come back, enemies respawn there in that position, depending. So like, for example, when you went into when you got to the top of the tower, like that first room in that top tower, and then you went into, you died first and then you went back, and I told you, hey, there's a safe room downstairs, and you went into the room, and then you took that lift down.
Yep.
And then you got to that low floor, and then there was the staircase that you went down, and then you went to your right, and you kept going down. Then you pressed... Oh, sorry, there was
there's an elevator that came up when I fought the knight.
That's right, and the guard, yeah. So the guard came up, and you defeated it, right? So usually stuff like that, there won't be a respawn of an enemy, right? So I don't know why, but I think it's because it's more of a quick time scene, if anything. So it's like a scene that's
it's
locked
a specific event, yeah.
So, but the non-quick time scenes, there will be an enemy that'll come back and respawn. But I was surprised because the point that we're actually talking about, guys, is also the point where the swinging axes are on that bridge. Just for anybody listening that you need a reference. So the swinging axes on the bridge, and Holmesy needed to go find the key to put in KAMOSHIDA'S statue eye there. He had to go back downstairs to find the key. So for anybody who's played the Persona game, Persona 5, and knows pretty much what I'm talking about now. So Holmesy had to go downstairs and find the key. So, but the thing is, right, you did defeat a couple enemies going up, and then when you came back down, remember how you said there was that big enemy that was going red first when you were trying to go up? And then you came back down, and it wasn't there?
Yeah, so they like remapped the whole arena to make me go down to fight into the second key.
Yes, that's right. So there will be instances as you go forward that will happen again.
Right.
So there will be instances where there'll be remaps, there'll be respawns. that you turn around and go, well, that's bullshit. I just defeated that guy. And the thing is, though, what I find is if you defeat them the first time going through, and then you come back again and you have to go back, the enemies that they give you will be a touch easier, so that you're not trying to defeat the same enemy.
It's just good. I also get that for like a EXP farming aspect as well. Like I suppose if
that's
you
it.
keep
Yeah,
going
that's
back
what it
and
is.
forth, yeah, it's like deter you from doing that all the time. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially that's what it is. You're XP farming, and they want you to XP farm in the game as well, so that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, getting to bosses in the game, like I've said, you're gonna experience some really, really difficult bosses. I mean, Kamoshida was. Did you die during your Kamoshida battle?
No, I didn't. No.
Oh man, you got lucky.
I was actually alright. I managed to heal like pretty evenly. Like I noticed which characters were dropping low, and I just used like Dia on each character I needed to. So I did like two attack, 2 heal, and I just kind of like looped that around in a cycle. So I ended up kind of balancing my health the whole way through.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good.
And like guarding against his spikes. Yeah. Yeah.
Who'd you send up to get the crown?
I didn't actually get a choice. Morgana just went up.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, usually.
I don't know whether I did it wrong. I might not have done it right, but I pressed dialogue boxes, and then it was just like, do you want to send like someone up, or like send a character up? And then when it was my turn, when it was Weeaboo's turn, Morgana just went. It just said, "Who do you want to send someone up?" And Morgana was just the one that went up and grabbed it. So I might not have done something right. I might have skipped a dialogue screen. I may not have understood the goal entirely, but Morgana went up the top in the end. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Because usually you get a choice of who goes up, and apparently the canon choice, from what I'm gathering, because they just did the Persona 5 anime series, and I've been watching that just to kind of get a grasp of what they wanted to do canon in the story. So the canon choice in the story apparently was Ryuji, and that shocked me, because I always pick Morgana as well. So because I thought to myself, that's the smallest character. But you know what I find funny is that she almost said cheese. There you go. His persona is actually got a pretty strong wind attack as well. So yeah, and that's what shocked me too. Like, should I actually send Morgana up, because I think he'd probably be able to help out too. And it kind of gets to the point where you will get these things where you basically got to sacrifice a character in battle, and it's like, fuck, I don't really want to, but if I have to, who am I going to choose? Yeah. So there's going to be instances of that, but there's also going to be instances in the future where you will get help, which will be good for you as well during battle.
I've noticed on the cover of the game, there's characters that I have not even come across yet. So I mean, I've looked at it, and like, it's not a spoiler because I don't know who these people are, but I'm sure there's going to be more characters I'm going to interact with and team up with later. Oh yeah, definitely. There's going to be a slew of characters, and there's going to be some really funny ones, and there's going to be some real confronting stuff ahead. I mean, if you thought that this first part with Kamoshida and what he did was confronting, man, you've seen nothing yet. Like, some of the stuff that you'll eventually figure out what's going on. But yeah, look, there'll be instances where it will be quite difficult. So getting that help will actually help you a lot in terms of some of these boss battles. So that'll be really good. Hey, one more thing before we wrap this up. So yeah, in terms of what you have played so far, are you happy with going forward? Now I am, yes. Yep. I was very hesitant to want to keep playing this game after how much I'd gone through and how little there's very little story reward for effort you put in, and I say story reward, like it wasn't very exciting for me to play. Like, there's a lot of references to like, oh man, I must just be tired from day-to-day life, and it's just like, that's what this feels like though. This feels like I'm just in like a Japan simulator right now. It's like, so things like, and I'm gonna vent about this for like a minute and then I'm gonna stop. Do it, boy. Shit like having to find my way in and out of a train station. Like, I spent 10 to 15 minutes lost because I did not know which entrance to go in and out of just to get home. So good. It's such a mundane, stupid, unnecessary task in a game. I do not know why they added it. It should have just been what is now a cutscene where you see sketchy animations transitioning across the screen of people standing on a train. That's all it should be. That's all it should have ever been. I do not care about having to get on and off a train. That is my vent. That is it. But aside from all that, now that I'm up to where I am, I do want to keep playing. Because the Kamoshida fight was fun. I thought that was exciting. I thought now that there's actually something happening, I actually find myself interested in what's coming up next. Because there's, aside from the fact that I've finished it not too quickly, but because I've got so many spare days, that's a bit of a wait. But I think like now I actually find myself excited to see what's happening next because I don't know what's going to happen to Kamoshida. Like, I don't care about the character. He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know what happens to him because people are speculating him losing his mind. People are saying he's taking sick days because he's like, physically sick. Like, different characters are saying different things about him. And like, now I actually want to keep playing to find out what's going on, not just like, oh, I have to come back and play and grind through this big castle again. It's now I want to keep playing. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of advice here from now to what you're going to be playing soon. So what you got ahead, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm just going to say this: you got something that's grindy ahead, right? But it's choice, so you don't have to play it. You don't have to at all. But they do make you play that part for the first time, essentially. So you will have to play this part for the first time. But then after you've done this, it's essentially choice after whether you want to go back to this and keep playing it. It gets a bit grindy, but from what you're going into, and a lot of people know what I'll be talking about anyway. So when I say this, but it gets really grindy. Essentially this is also the XP farm. Essentially, this is the XP farm of the game, but it's also a part of the game where if you do play it and you do go into it, you get to unlock new points of the story, more accessible points of the story as well. You won't have to play it after you've done it the first time, but you will have to get back to it at the end of the game.
Okay.
And if you don't play it during the game, at the end of the game, you have to grind right through it. And it does become a bit of a pain because I had to spend multiple sessions playing through the end part of that game. And I'm talking like maybe hours. But
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It gets a bit grindy. So that's why my second playthrough, when I went through it, I kind of went back and forth and made sure that I played it while I was actually playing the main story. Because if anything, it helped me a lot more. I ended up getting more XP, unlocking new confidence and all this other stuff. So essentially, when you play this part, which will be introduced to you soon, it's going to be a little bit like, well, this is really grindy. Don't feel that you need to do it right now, but know that if you do it now, it'll be easier at the end. If not, then you will find it that you'll have to grind at the end of the game if you don't do it now.
Okay.
That's a piece of advice. Yeah.
I'm probably more inclined to take a look at it early, to be honest. Like, I'd rather get it over and done with and just know that I can complete the rest of the game later. But I mean, I'll probably get rid of that early.
Yeah. What essentially opens up two paths for you. There's the main story, and then there's the easiest way for me to put it is that once this unlocks, you're essentially playing the end story already.
Okay.
You're actually playing the end story while you're playing the main story.
Right.
At the same time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So you'll figure it out when you start playing it anyway, but it's really, really cool. Holmesy, any final thoughts on the first part of the game before we wrap this up?
I'm glad that the last fight and the last hour that I played was interesting enough for me to want to keep playing because I was very skeptical about it. So,
I'm glad too.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Because I told you the exact same thing about Life is Strange, and you were like,
I mean, Life is Strange. I just took a long time to play, but Life is Strange got me right from the start. This one's taken a long time to get into it, so we shall see how the rest of it goes.
All right, well, guys, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening to our first episode of Dash and Holmesy Take Your Hearts. So, guys, be sure to catch Holmesy on Twitter at HolmesyIn5, but you can also catch him streaming every week nearly at twitch.tv/. Homes in 5. You can follow me on Twitter at Dash Gamers, and also follow us on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Dash and Holmesy. And be sure to also follow us on iTunes when that's up and ready. So we'll put out something on Twitter to make sure that you guys know that. But if we are live there, make sure that you give us a cheeky 5-star rating, because it definitely helps us out. So subscribe there and subscribe to SoundCloud, because it depends on what kind of service that you guys want. And also make sure that you catch our Hungry Family over on 8bit.net. Where myself and Holmesy post every 3 weeks. Guys, you can also catch Buddy Watson and I on Dash Culture, where we dive deep into the world of pop culture every single 2 weeks. So that's it, guys. Thanks for listening this week, and we'll catch you guys in 3 weeks. Much love.
Stay hungry.